Last year, my aunt had these really cute Christmas tree napkins, and I knew I had to add them into my 25 Days of Christmas collection this year. Hi, I'm Christina, and I love to digitally apparel pattern, creating unique pieces of wearable art and sometimes houseware stuff. I am super excited to get these Christmas tree napkins made and maybe give them out as a gift this year. So let's get cutting and sewing these together.
I always like to wash and dry my fabric in the same way I will be washing and drying my final product. When it comes out of the dryer, it's always super wrinkly, so I always give it a good press so that when I'm cutting out my fabric, it is crisp and clean and there's no random wrinkles somewhere where I don't want it. Then I'm going to go ahead and tape my pattern together by cutting off the edges I don't need and lining up all those lines, making sure they're straight and taping it together. Once I have it taped together, I'm going to cut out the pattern out of the paper. And then I'm going to start laying out my fabric. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a double layer of fabric. So I'm going to lay down my first layer and then line up my second layer on top of it. And I'm going to smooth it out. It's giving me a lot of problems today, but I'm going to smooth it out so that there's no wrinkles in either layer. I also want to make sure that the grain lines are lined up so that everything is on grain and happy. Then I'm going to line up my grain line and I'm going to pin my pattern down to my fabric and cut it out. Now that it's cut out, I'm going to make sure to mark my notches of where my tree trunk's going to go. If you're not going to add the tree trunk, you don't need to do that. And then I'm going to unpin it, and then I am going to lay out my pattern again and cut another set. So I'm actually going to be making a set of 4 of these napkins in the long run. So I'm going to go ahead and cut them all out right now so they're all ready to get sewn together. Then I'm going to cut out my tree trunks. So I'm just going to trace around my pattern here and I'm going to mark my little notches and cut out my tree trunks. There we go. Now it's on to the sewing machine. So I'm going to start with those tree trunks and I'm going to start by back stitching and then stitching around 3 sides of the tree trunk, ending in a back stitch. I'm going to move over to my iron and I'm going to iron open the seam allowances just to help get a nice crisp edge. Then I'm going to flip it right side out and using a point turner, get those points really nice and crisp. Then I'm going to give it one final press to give it a nice crisp look. Now I could not actually see where my notches were that I definitely marked out. So make sure you're using either fabric or you're using a pen that you'll be able to see where those notches are. Then I'm going to line up my tree trunk and I'm going to pin all the way around the rest of the napkin. And then I'm going to start on the straight edge at the notch and sew all the way around to the other notch, leaving about a 5-inch opening where I can actually flip my napkin back out to the right side. Before I flip it to the right side though, I'm going to clip those corners so that I have less fabric in those corners. Don't clip too close or else you might clip your thread. Then I'm going to move back over to the ironing board and I'm going to iron my seam allowances. I'm just going to iron them in. This will help get it easier for it to flip and then it'll give that flat edge a very crisp look. You want to make sure that you are ironing both sides of the seam allowance of that flat edge so that once it's turned inside or right side out, it actually has a very easy top stitching area. So then we're going to flip it right side out. And again, I'm going to use that point turner to crisp up those corners. Get them nice and laid out. Once I have it mostly there, I'm going to pull my iron back out and I'm going to give it a really good press working to make sure that all of the fabric is out of the seam allowance and I have a nice curve. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and do a top stitch 1/8 of an inch away all the way around my napkin. Then it's back to the pressing board, and I'm going to get my pattern out, and I'm going to press in my pleats. This does sometimes take a few tries to get it right, but I finally got it. There we are. Then I'm going to give it a nice good press with a lot of steam, and there we have it. I have my tree napkin done.
And here we have it. I love how they turned out. They are so cute and very, very easy to make. I will be excited to make a few more with this same two types of fabric here, as well as a few other ones with some other fabric that I have yet to find. Don't tell my husband. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like and subscribe, and you can see many, many more of the 25 days of Christmas patterns that are going on this year. And if you're interested in this pattern, you can actually find it down below so that you can make some Christmas tree napkins yourself. Happy sewing!